Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the lab. This is Kel, and I'm here with Cody. And today we are talking about Ozempic and
Yes.
all about it. I know it's a hot topic right now, so very fun, very ready to go into this deep dive. But first, how are you doing today, Cody?
Yeah. So nothing crazy here. I had an MRI on Monday, which is always fun because I'm kind of claustrophobic. So they give me a sedative, aka like Valium, and yeah, it's funny. I don't know how they expect you to function because they have you take it an hour before, and then they give you two pills. So it's like one an hour before, and then basically like one when you get there. And by the time you've got like that second pill hidden and you're trying to fill out the paperwork, it's like the guy called me back and I just like stood up and like dropped my water bottle and like everything. And they like take you back, to the rooms to
Oh,
like have you put their super risque gowns on that are open in the back, not in the front, in the back. And you're like, first of all, these are hard to tie when you're sober, but when you are high as fuck, tying those things is bullshit.
no.
Uh, but so like the last time I literally had to ask the lady. I was just like, look, this isn't shouldn't be this hard, but I am high as fuck. Can you help me out here? So she had to tie it for me, but luckily, like this time, you ever had those texts that are just like super overly nice and you're like, what is wrong with you? Or like whatever you're having, I would love some of that.
Yeah.
So he like took me back and he was like, I'll help you tie it and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. At least you know I'm probably going to need your help.
Yeah.
But yeah, still waiting on those results. Essentially, I just wanted to take advantage of my out of pocket max and just, see where my shoulder was at, if it's gotten any worse, um, that sort of thing. But hopefully I can just, it hasn't gotten worse. I can just get another shot and then, be on my merry way. So nothing too serious, just my little experience. I slept for like, I feel like 3 hours when I got home because it's just like, oh, it knocked me
Wow.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
needed it anyways, let's be honest.
I think so because like I haven't been sleeping great, and like apparently I just need Valium. But fortunately, everything good you can get addicted to, so they don't like to prescribe that very often. But maybe I should just start hurting myself so I can get more MRI. I'm just kidding.
It is not worth it to go into the hospital that much, let's be
Oh
honest.
no, that's for real. Plus, uh, yeah, it just I wish there was like a non-addictive solution to like everything. Anxiety, pain, sleep. But unfortunately, we are humans who live in society, and it's kind of very against all of our natural instincts. So we gotta live with it. Anyways,
Yep. Yeah,
now,
but
now that rant is over, how about you? What's up?
not much. Kind of just getting into the new groove still. I don't remember how it went down, but last week I had to put down my dog, another dog, after just putting down my first dog 2 months ago. So it's been like a kind of a double header. Um, so that was really hard. It was not expected at all. She just got very sick very fast, and so a lot of like dealing with some grief, dealing with a lot of emotions. But this weekend, I had a really good weekend. Like as you know, we've been in this new town for a little while, and but both of us have been so busy, or I was in prep. Um, but this week we kind of really took advantage and like we're townies, and so we did like the local farmers market, and then we went on a hike with our dog, and then afterwards we went to a new local restaurant for dinner, and it was really nice. It was kind of fun to just be like a little townie. um, so
Awesome.
so that was cool.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very soul recharging after such an emotional roller coaster we've been on.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially for both your dogs within, a few months
Mhm.
span. Yeah, it's like I I'm on like you had that happen to you, and it's almost like a new fear unlocked. I've already had anxiety about Carly. She's getting up there. She's like 12 now, so when they reach that age, it's like you just kind of know it's gonna come, and she's a smaller dog, so it might be a little longer, but you never know. A sudden thing, kind of how what happened with Betty. So
Mhm.
I was just like, I didn't even consider that one. So my
I
anxiety is
know,
just like,
right?
let's go with that. Yeah, okay.
It's the worst. But the one thing I am really grateful for is we have the new puppy that we've had
Yeah,
for like 3 months, um, and I'm just thankful we have her had her to come home to, because I think having two dogs to having zero dogs would have killed me. Just that silence when you come home, like
yeah.
I don't think I could have done it. So I'm very happy that we already kind of had Dolly, and like she had got to meet both of my dogs before they passed. So it's like they passed on the little puppy torch of here, take care of Dad now.
Oh. Yeah, it's almost like yeah, like we were kind of talking, I was like the universe just knew you were gonna need that puppy. And yeah, it's interesting you say that coming home to like an empty house. That's why I always have two dogs, and whenever it's like one dog kind of gets past like the 5 year mark, because I had just Carly for a while, and then I was just like, no, 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 like I need another one first, like a companion for the dog, but also for myself when she passes, whatever. And I'll probably do the same thing, um, you know, when Carly passes, and Toby needs a companion, and you don't want to just be just you left, because it really is extra extra hard.
Real. And well, and then like I also think that the older dogs sometimes teach the younger dogs, like, look, this is how we do things around here, and in whatever dog language. And so I always
Yeah,
think that's also helpful.
yeah.
um yeah, so but yeah, I'm very excited about that, very grateful to have her. But yeah, I just got the call from the vet that they had her, Betty was ready to come and pick up, so gonna
No.
do that later today.
Did you have like, do they do like a cremation type of thing? Yeah. Do they put it in like give you like a plaque and all that stuff, or is it just like
Yeah.
ashes?
No, so they give, or like it's like a little wooden box that's like finished and everything. It has like a nameplate on it, and they were also going to do a paw print. Um, they asked about hair, but I Betty was a golden retriever. I have a lot of her hair still, so
Yeah,
I passed
yeah,
on the hair sample. But the paw print is something I'm excited to have, because that's what I got with Tom too.
yeah.
So that's
Uh,
nice at least.
Have you thought about getting them like tattooed somewhere?
I would like to get them a memorial tattoo. I've seen those like ones with the ashes, and I am not about that life.
Oh no,
Um,
yeah,
but
I've
like
seen that too.
but I have thought about it. I just don't know what I would want really yet. So I haven't got the. I It's funny. I keep a running list of tattoos I want, and I just put on it like Tom Memorial, but I don't have like an actual solid idea of what I want. But Betty will have to go on there soon too. So we'll see.
Ow.
I think we're gonna have like a little, just Maddie and I have like a little ceremony in the woods at our house, and like kind of spread their ashes. And because I'm not one for really keeping, I don't want to carry around ashes for the rest of my life. So I think
Yeah, fair.
putting them somewhere where I can like go and remember them will
Yeah,
be better. So.
yeah, that's awesome. And what better place than out, kind of in the woods, where I'm sure they. And I don't. Tom never made it to where you're at currently,
I'm gonna
right?
make it.
Okay, but he can
But
enjoy it
Betty
with
did,
Betty.
and she
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Do you
But
foresee
at least we'll be.
yourself? Oh, sorry. do you foresee yourself getting like another dog because you've had two for so long? Do you think,
Mm.
you'll be like, oh, I kind of want a second one?
Maybe one day, but not right now. Having a puppy is so hard, and I feel like it's something that you always forget how hard it is.
Yeah,
Um, so I definitely want Dolly to grow up a little bit before I even consider it. And uh, so we'll see. But
yeah.
for right now, we're just gonna stick with Dolly.
Yeah, give her some training and stuff first because it is overwhelming when they're puppies, especially when it's a high energy one like you got there.
Well, and I think she's gonna be big, and so I want to see how big she gets before we go and get like another big dog because
Yeah,
I like big dogs usually. But we'll see. We'll see.
yeah,
To
that
be
makes
determined.
sense. Or you can get like one big one, one small one. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll make them, or two small ones so they can ride in like a saddlebag situation.
Yeah, it's like it's funny. We've always had like a bigger dog and a smaller dog. So there my at my parents' house there was a bigger dog, and I used to have Chica. She was German Shepherd, Golden Retriever, so she was bigger. And then we had a little Jack Russell. So there was always a bigger and then a smaller, but it always worked. So this is actually the first time I've had two small dogs, um, and I like that I can they aren't as overwhelming because sometimes bigger dogs like they're just big and when they get excited you're just like oh my god, like they can just overpower you or when you're walking them and stuff.
Yeah,
So I've grown accustomed to liking little dogs just because if they jump on you it doesn't hurt.
that's fair. That's
I'm
completely
just a
fair.
bad dog owner essentially, but
I mean, we're trying to get. It's such a hard habit to break.
it is, especially because you're excited to see him too. So
Yeah,
you're like,
right.
"Come here."
Okay, wrestle with me. All right.
Yeah. Give me a big hug, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Um so yeah, I'm glad you have her. Have you like, dogs have certain traits or personalities. Has she shown kind of like her personality a bit yet or
Yeah, I think she's really playful and rambunctious, but she likes to do that for like 5 minutes and then she just wants to snuggle. She's a very
oh,
Velcro-y also,
okay.
so I'm a
That's
little bit
interesting.
worried about that because we both work from home, so I don't want her to like develop like separation anxiety.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
but she's a fun, goofy dog. Like she's always hanging out upside down, like just with her legs spread and her belly out, and she's always in weird positions like that. So
Oh,
she's just kind of a goober right now.
that's cute. That's yeah. Um, it's interesting too because I feel like with my experience with female dogs versus male dogs, like females are very much so like give me attention when I want it, but then I'm gonna go like do my own thing and I
Mhm.
haven't really been much of a snuggler. They don't like snuggling, and then any other male dog, especially, Toby specifically, he's like, I always want to be up in your shit. I will be right next to you. I will be in the way. I just always want your attention. So it's interesting sometimes to see like, uh, I haven't ruled it out enough to be like, is it just the female dog thing? But it doesn't sound like it
Not
with
with
Dolly
Dolly.
there. Yeah,
Tom was way snugglier than Betty was, though, for sure.
yeah. So maybe there's a little bit to it.
Maybe a little
Maybe
bit.
there's some exceptions.
Maybe Dolly's transgender. We
We're
don't
gonna
know
get
yet.
so
We're
much
not
hate
old
for
enough.
that. People are gonna be, you're gonna transition your dog. That's animal cruelty. Oh God.
Yep.
Speaking of,
Speaking of, what another segue.
yeah. So, politics these days are interesting to say the least. We're coming up on the election, and a lot of the talking points, especially on the right, happens to be against trans people. We've become a talking point to sway voters, which is delightful. So yeah, thoughts on that, Cal?
Fuck, dude. I feel like trans people are just the scapegoat right now for everything. And I have been so freaking bummed out lately because I watch quite a bit of sports. Like I love hockey and football. And we watch rugby and blah blah blah. And so I'm on like cable TV often.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm also too cheap to pay for Hulu without commercials. Um, so I see commercials a lot still, and it just fucking sucks to see because like it feels like every other commercial I was like, "Are you gonna get a sex change in English class today?" And it's they're like it's not just that they're really like cruel and misinformed, but they're also like very like just triggering because they're using those words that like the community doesn't use anymore, or like very outdated terms, and it just sucks to be the scapegoat. And
Yeah.
I like a lot of times people can laugh it off and everything, and I can even laugh it off sometimes, but it feels like when it's like back to back to back to back, it just like it gets that earworm effect where it's just something that's always in your head now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of commercials like that in California? I imagine it's a little better.
I wouldn't say it necessarily. I think I haven't seen them. I've seen them like on Twitter, people sharing them, but I I pay for Hulu with no ads because I'm impatient. So like I don't see a whole lot of. I don't watch cable TV, so I don't see a lot of what is like going out to the masses of those who watch cable. Uh, but I have seen some that have been on cable that people are passing around, and it's not fun. I think we're able to kind of like laugh it off because they're so misinformed and we know who we are, and it's just like wow. But the part that gets to me is that these commercials are targeted towards a certain audience, and that is people who are completely ignorant and misinformed, and so they just kind of adopt whatever they're told. Maybe they don't have any connection to an actual trans person. They just have absolutely no idea, so they only know what they're being told or what they see on TV. And there's nothing I hate more than being misunderstood. I feel like we've spent so long being misunderstood, but it's almost worse now. Before, say back in 2013, like when I first started transition, there was an ignorance, but like people asked questions out of ignorance and curiosity. But I could tell the difference between intention, and now people don't even ask questions, they just assume. And everything they assume is all hate. They assume you're coming after their kids. They tell me to stay away from their kids, or we're just perverted. We've destroyed our bodies, or we're going to hell. Like all the things. So it's more of an attack versus a learning experience. No one is there with an open mind. They're just set with what they already know. So that's the part that I find so hard. It's like before I was open and honest about my transition, I wanted to educate, and now it's like got me second guessing because there just isn't any education left to be had, because anyone who has an open mind has already been educated. We've kind of already been around for a while and had people be openly trans, and now it's like the other side of the spectrum. They just come to basically tell you your existence is wrong and they hope you die. So that's the hard part.
Yeah, I just feel like it's so hard now because it feels a lot like my safety feels affected because like
Yeah.
before like I pass, which is passing privilege, and I understand that, but like um no one really bothered anybody because no one really cared because it didn't affect anything. But now
Yeah.
everybody's saying, it feels like everybody's like, well, this is the problem. Brum, brum, brum. And it just gives people the gumption. I feel like when they see it on TV, they're like, "Oh, if I can see this on TV, I can do it in person,"
Yeah.
and it is really scary when it comes to that. And like I've have how do you deal with it? Like, do you try? what do you do when it's kind of, because I know both me and you have talked about before that it feels a lot more like people are searching out trans folks, especially online, simply
Yeah,
to hate. And like I know I've had a huge uptick in like the trolls on my comments,
yeah,
and people are fucking crazy. Like they'll I've been
they
told
are.
several times to slit my wrists. I've been told um, really vile things, and I know you have too.
Yeah,
How do you handle all the hate and the kind of the depressing kind of era or month or two that we're in? Because this we still have another week and a half of this.
yeah, and sadly, it's still not going to end there,
It's not going to go
despite
away. Yeah.
who wins too. I think that's the hard part. It's scary no matter who is going to win this election because there's still the same people out there. But yeah, how I handle it, I mean, sometimes not great. Like it can get to me. I'm like, how do I handle it? Drugs. No, I'm just kidding. But you just try to ground yourself and know that the people in your immediate vicinity aren't the people out there searching out, and you have to know that those people are just miserable and they're looking for some way to feel better about themselves. And I know that's so cliche to say, uh, but it is true because I can't ever imagine doing that to someone who is even a Trump voter. I don't search out Trump voters, or I guess, a Trump voter is just kind of a vague uh, label, but that just tends to be where they come from.
Yeah.
Let's just say someone who doesn't
Far
like
right.
trans people. Yeah, like conservative, far right conservatives who are like Christian nationalists or whatever. I don't search them out to comment on their shit and tell them how they're wrong, or I just live my life. I post my own shit, and that's it. So it's like, that these people, there's something inherently wrong with them, that they're actually like doing this just for entertainment, or because they have this certain mission that they think they're on, that they think it's going to do anything, and it doesn't do anything besides make someone else feel like shit. And it's crazy how they could tell someone the statistics of suicide for trans people and in the same sentence tell you to kill yourself. And you're like, cool. So if you're actually supposedly you like, do you care about this? Are you hoping we all kill her? Like, what is your what's the point here? There's no logic to it, but uh, I think, yeah, it's just knowing that, hey, they're miserable. I'm trying to live my life the best that I can. I know that I'm exponentially happier since I transitioned, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, similar, like kind of thought processes. Try to also remember um, that by being public, and because we're kind of like older for trans people, like I feel like well, and well, we're competing in masters, like we
Yeah,
are like,
no, we are. We're
and
trans
and it's
dads.
nice to think about the kids that are behind us, and I think a lot about like I would rather get the attention on me than them get it at so young, or try to just be able to push it forward and kind of think more about legacy, and that you're helping people, and that being publicly out is helping people, showing people that you can be successful doing and be trans at the same time. You don't
Yeah,
have to give up your life and give up your goals and dreams just because you're trans. You can
right.
still do both and
Yeah.
have what you want in life, make the life you want. So I try to think a lot about that. But I also have a couple new phrases that I've been using against the trolls, and it's been very nice. And I had this random follower recently. I should have looked up their handle, but they've been my white knight and have been responding to all the trolls and like being
Hey.
mean in the comments, because usually I ignore trolls because I just leave their comment. I don't respond. I just kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
But they started doing that, and then I came up with what I think is the perfect line to respond, and it's, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" and that has felt really good recently. I also saw a TikTok about some lady who was trolling a Trump supporter who was mad about trans folks, and she's like, "How would you know that unless you creeped under the stall like a pervert?"
That's a good one for sure. Because it's so
So like,
true.
those are kind of fun ones. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning into. I love my life. I'm happy. If I was not out and able to transition, I would probably not be here. I would probably be dead. One of those statistics, right? So I just lean into that, leaning into the gratitude, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's like the best defense. And
And
yeah,
don't doom scroll. Don't read the
yes,
comments.
yeah. Always. I mean, unless they're your own, it's hard
Well,
to.
when it's your own, it's hard. But like,
Yeah.
don't go speaking out because like sometimes that can be. Don't do that to yourself. Just don't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. Yeah. There's so much more I could say, but I think this last year specifically, it got a lot more personal because a lot of times you can kind of put up a wall, at least to be like, these people don't know me, they don't know where I live, whatever. Um, but I had like a specific post that was just like ongoing, going, and I was never like scared for my safety with online stuff. I feel very detached to online trolls. I don't post my location for a reason, but on that one post, one of the things that actually kind of got to me a little bit is they named my gym and where it was located, and I
Oh,
was like, I had a little moment of like, what the fuck do I do with this? Like, I don't. It was basically just being like to make a statement of like, I know where you are, and I never tagged my gym purposefully. I don't, because I don't want the people in my gym to know I'm trans either. Because I use the restroom in there. You never. I know there's a lot of more conservative people that work out there, so to never have even tagged my location of my gym, but someone just to know, that freaked me out for sure. So there was a good while there. I just like would be looking around, just trying to like make sure I didn't see this random person. Nothing ever came of it, but it definitely hit home in a way that it never has, to where I was like kind of actually afraid. So that kind of has stuck with me a little bit more. Uh, I just hope that it remains true that a lot of people don't have the guts to say this kind of shit to you in person, and that it's just because they're hiding. But this person wasn't necessarily hiding, so it was different. Um, but still here. Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
ugh. Yeah. Well, just wanted to tell you and our listeners, take care of yourself with all this shit. It can be really heavy in on your head and on your mindset and your emotions. So just take care of yourself and really focus on self care during this next bit of the election cycle, at least.
Yeah, and I've been trying to kind of like stay off things like Twitter a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd recommend that. Threads is a little better. Uh, but yeah, don't go on Twitter if you're in a bad state of mind. That's another piece of advice.
There you go. All
Ugh.
right. Well, should we switch into our topic for today?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we got Ozempic. I have a couple things. Like I have how it works, pros and cons. Um, where you want to start?
I mean, I guess we could start with like what it is. So, do you want to go
Yeah,
from there?
sure. Let's do
Um,
it. Yeah. So Ozempic is a injection form of a medication that was developed to manage type 2 diabetes. It works on a hormone in the body that is released when you get food in your stomach that helps regulate appetite and blood sugar. Um, no, excuse me. It also slows gastric emptying, so you feel fuller longer, helping you kind of to reduce calories. But once a month you have to go in and get a shot with the doctor, I believe. Um, so I think that's kind of the basics. Did you have anything to add?
I guess just that there's like different forms. So there's like semaglutide, and that's, like Ozempic is the most well-known one. So that's like the generic, I believe, or something along those lines. There's just like a few other ones. There's like Manjaro, Wegovy, and they're all like slightly different or like slightly different doses. I'm pretty sure. But of course, like people use the term Ozempic just because it's the easiest one. We all
Yeah.
know what we're talking about. Um, but yeah, I think that's like the gist of it. It just works with on that hormone to control blood sugar and appetite. So that's why it has become so popular with weight loss and not just diabetes. But no.
Yeah, and I think I know a lot of people who have been using these and um, having result. I mean, they have results. You do lose weight pretty quickly um, without having to change much. It's kind of one of those things that's like the what I feel like is like the newest fad diet almost. Is that kind of
Yeah,
what you're viewing it as?
almost. It's like a fad, but like it works. If that makes sense. It's a tool. Like in my opinion, like I feel like it's a tool that is great for those who really need it. I would say, those in like the morbid obese category, because I'd say it's almost like this alternative to surgery. It works in a similar way because it works on those hormones, those hunger hormones, those feelings of fullness, but also with like blood sugar regulation. So it can actually be very helpful. And it's obviously less invasive. It can have its own, potential side effects. I don't know if that's something that you want me to kind of touch on, because with good always comes some sort of potential bad. So yeah, should I go over
Yeah, go
side
ahead.
effects? All right. So gastrointestinal issues. Number one, it's because it slows the emptying of your stomach, so you could end up constipated. Uh, so you could be like nauseous. You could also get diarrhea, just like every other thing. There's just like you could be constipated, you could get diarrhea, you could like depression drugs. It's like you might feel happy or you might want to commit suicide. Uh, so it all is individual, right? Usually these things are something that kind of like comes down as your body gets used to it, but there is potential for some GI distress. The biggest one that people tend to talk about, um, there's a slight risk, and I think they're still looking for more information because it is so rare, but there's a small risk for like pancreatitis. Um, so that's something to consider. It's not something that is very common, but slight possibility. There's also some gallbladder issues, like increased, gallstones possibly. One that just popped up that I hadn't seen before. It's because it's only been tested in animal studies, but I think it's something to potentially consider. So thyroid tumors, so something to be aware of if you have that running in your family. If there's thyroid cancer in your family, I'd be a little bit cautious. Again, that's only animal studies though, so we're not actually sure how it impacts humans. So it could be bullshit, it could be not, but just so you know to weigh that as well. Um, I think that's like probably the biggest things. I know that the slowing of the digestive process is usually the hardest one for most people. So just something to
Yeah.
be aware of. But that's also what keeps you from feeling hungry. So it's like a little bit, okay, a lot of it, not taking a shit is not fun.
True. And I think the one thing that I really wanted to point out especially is that um, the idea that this is an alternative to the surgical option. So this does have that magic bullet. Like it sounds like, oh, there's no downsides except for the things that you list that everybody thinks they're not going to be one of those. But the fact that if you stop taking it and you don't change anything, you're going to gain your weight right back.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's why I talked about it more in a fad sense, just because you still have to put in the work to maintain it if you don't want to take it forever. And
Right.
that's so you'll lose the weight really fast. But if you're not addressing the actual issues with your lifestyle, um, again, it's not going to be effective.
Yeah, and even with surgery, people down the
Exactly.
road gain it back because they didn't change. They just thought the surgery would do it all for them, which it does at first because you physically cannot eat more, or you'll throw up or whatever. But eventually, you'll stretch your stomach back out. You'll gain the weight back. You see it all the time. 600 pound of life, whatever. So you're right in the sense it's still not magical. I think the thing that I find most useful or helpful with it, or how I kind of picture things, is we're all different. And this sounds really weird to compare. I'm not trying to compare humans to dogs. But if you ever notice how, like, some breeds are able to kind of regulate their appetite, you could leave food out all day long. They'll come and go as they feel hungry and they won't just like eat the whole thing. Then there's other dogs, like bulldogs, Frenchies, for example. Like, they literally will never stop. They will like eat themselves to death. Beagles, like, you have to regulate their food for them. So I like to see it as like the way that it can differ between dogs, it can also differ between humans. There's some humans who've never counted calories in their life. They've always ate intuitively, but they've never been overweight. And they're very good at just knowing when they're hungry and knowing when they're full. They don't have emotional attachments and that sort of thing. And then there's people who are just seemingly always hungry and have this like appetite that just is insatiable. So I feel like sometimes these tools, these medications can actually help people that have issues with regulating their hunger hormones, and like maybe they're just always extra hungry, but with this medication it almost brings them to like normal. So like that's where I see it being a little different from surgery or helpful, like as a tool. It's not this thing where it's like, oh, you're cheating. It's like, oh, this might actually help you regulate yourself so you can eat more intuitively like other people, and not just be constantly like trying to fill this hunger void. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see it that it does worry me when I think it is a slippery slope to that idea of a magic bullet for everything, that there's a pill that you can take and not do the work. And I think that could be a very slippery slope because I feel like that mindset is very contagious, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, it can like seep into other parts of your life, to like look for that quick fix.
Right.
And so I'm not completely against it. I think maybe more uh, not regulation, but like maybe more like I feel like it shouldn't be used for 25 pounds. Like, you know what I mean?
No.
Like
Yeah.
it should be used as a more rarely, in my opinion, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's not something you want to use for like vanity pounds. Like if you're still in a healthy weight range, but you just want to lose weight to look better, you shouldn't just be using a medication with potential side effects. Like, you're gonna have to put in the work whether you take it or not. You might as well make the changes you need to make. But I think it is great for those who, like really need it. They're in like that morbid obese category and they're already in this like emergency state where you have to do something. And so it's like,
Absolutely.
if you can't get them to adhere to a certain dietary plan, like it could be a first round of defense to be like, all right, fine, let's try this. And I think that a lot of times too, it can kind of activate motivation because they'll start to see at least a little bit of progress. And progress is very motivating. So even if the way they started making progress was through medication, I think it might actually help motivate them to kind of like make those dietary changes because they're seeing that it works. So it's kind of like, I feel like in that sense too, it could be helpful both mentally and physically, but also kind of bring them out of the range where they are at risk for like, a heart attack, or their diabetes is really bad and uncontrolled. But again, we see all these Hollywood stars who are using it just because they're Hollywood stars and they have the money for it and they need to stay fit. And so they're like, we're going to use this. There's a lot of pressure on them to stay very, very trim. But I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of it in that circumstance.
Well, and that's kind of one thing that I think it's maybe just a sign of a problem in general, and kind of this state's way of thinking about medicine and health, in the fact that like Ozempic would be really great if it was used like what you're talking about. Like if it was paired with like an education program to tell people how to take care of themselves, or hooks
Right.
them up with a trainer that will be able to show them the changes that they need to make this sustainable. But that's not how we do things here.
No, unfortunately, yeah. Like, how can we get you hooked on medication and that sort of thing?
Almost
Um,
like a kind of have like a program. It would be cool if it was like almost like the way we thought about PT, like when you get a surgery. So that initial surgery happens and you do the care with your doctor, right? And then you go into like physical therapy to take it to the next healing level.
yeah,
And I think that if it was used like that, that would be dope. That's a really cool thing, a really cool way to kind of learn and really use make
not to
effective change.
yeah, not to mention, I feel like if we went that route, then insurance would start covering coaches and personal trainers.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, help, come on, help us
yeah.
out. There are so many of us.
Help us help
Um,
you.
Yeah. It's like if insurance started covering more preventative medicine, or, saw us as like, the physical therapists of weight loss, we could help so many more people. We could help ourselves not having to like worry so much about fluctuating incomes and people being able to afford us, or having to charge very little in order for people to afford us, and having ourselves having to live very small because we know we want to like make things more accessible to people. So it's like if they did make those types of changes, like it would help. It would be like a domino effect of good.
People would be healthier. You reduce the obesity rate.
Yeah,
Look at
and
that utopia.
I know.
Bring
Unfortunately, I
down all
guess.
these heart conditions. Bring down broken bones. Reduce your risks of cancer. It'd be so great.
Yeah, yeah. Insurance is like, nah. We're only gonna pay for drugs and like surgery and shit, but that's it, which makes no sense. But that kind of puts me. So it's like, speaking of politics, I don't know if we want to go down this route, but there has also this year been this kind of effect of RFK being very into health and wellness, and he would probably fall in the line of people who are not necessarily for GLP-1 medications, a lot of pharmaceuticals. He's pretty much very like anti big pharma, and a lot of people kind of side with that. And so there's been this shift of like wellness people or coaches who have kind of shifted to the other side, just due to the thinking that because RFK endorsed Trump and now he's going to have some sort of hand in making America healthy again, there's been this like wave of people kind of shifting over there. And it's like, first of all, are they focusing on the right things? Yes, like our food system is fucked and it needs to be changed, but there's just so much money involved. Like, will it ever change? I don't know. But we're missing such a huge piece of the puzzle, which is people don't have the time, the money, the mental capacity to even like learn about making the right food choices, or even have time to cook at home or learn to cook at home if they don't know how. We've gotten rid of all these educational classes like home economics, where people used to learn how to cook, and now we don't have that. People don't know how to cook. They don't know how to feed themselves or their families properly. So therefore, of course, we're buying up more food because there's lack of education, but also lack of time. So people are paying for convenience. Then there's lack of income. So then we are paying for cheaper foods. So it's like this huge domino effect. It's like, cool, yeah, let's change the food industry, but how do we buy people time to actually care for themselves? There's no time to care for yourself if you're like a single parent. You're just working and you're paying for everything and your kids. It's like, or even if you're someone who has their own business as a single income, any single income household has like zero fucking time or resources to actually change things or like be their healthiest self. Is like you cannot put yourself first. You have to put your job first because you need a roof over your head. So if like at bare minimum all we can afford to do is afford a place to live, then that's not going to lead to change.
Well, no, and I think that's what you're saying is could all be boiled down to the income inequality is the reason that we have this health problem.
Yeah.
And I think that you're completely right. And because I agree, I support because like don't even get me started on like food deserts and the fact that like a lot of people are buying their groceries at a fucking Dollar General and
Yep.
or eating at McDonald's and yeah.
Yeah.
But I
It's
think that might
bullshit.
be a good topic for the next
Yeah,
podcast.
we could go off on it
So far.
forever. It's just something that has been like on my mind because I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's like two spaces within like nutrition and fitness. There's like very scientific evidence based where they're all about like not fear mongering people into not eating certain processed foods. I've got my beef with either side of things because I don't think either side has the actual answer. I don't think we necessarily need to make people less afraid of processed foods, but I also don't think we need to make them like terrified of them at the same time. But on the other side, they're trying to, scare people. But the problem is, not everyone can afford to eat the way that they're recommending. One, but two, they went and they flew themselves out for a protest. Like his, I think it's Kellogg's that makes Fruit Loops to protest the use of red dye number 40 in Fruit Loops, and they all got together, spent time, money, effort, and this is what they're protesting. And I'm like, are you for fucking real? Because there is so much more that we need to address besides Fruit Loops. Like, you should be protesting the fact that people can hardly live to survive and put a roof over their heads. And the reason people are eating Fruit Loops is because they don't have fucking time to make a proper breakfast. So if you can figure out a way to get people to be paid more, like an actual living wage, I think that would do wonders. So until then, maybe, fuck Red 40. I don't know.
Fuck the Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Um, I saw a different TikTok the other day that was like, I was this woman. She's like, I was in Whole Foods, and someone next to me purchased paper towels at Whole Foods. They were just in two different tax brackets.
That's so true. I would
Who
never
could
buy paper
afford to buy
towels.
paper towels at Whole Foods?
Well, number one, they're expensive. Number two, they suck. It's
I would
like
imagine.
it's
Yeah.
you might as well just cut down your own tree and try to absorb shit with that. Or just steal toilet paper from the public bathroom because it's about the same.
Yep. 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 Oh
uh,
goodness. So we ready for the power talk?
yeah, let's do it.
All right. Today I have a quote from Arthur Ashe. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Um, I think, especially with all the bullshit going on kind of in the US right now, and the fact that we're mostly speaking to the trans community here on our podcast, I think it's really important to make sure that you remember that you don't have to have the same priorities throughout every season, every day. Your bandwidth is going to change. Your priorities are going to change sometimes, and sometimes you're not going to have the mental capacity to handle the same thing every day. It's okay that when you get real sad you you don't have motivation. Figure out a way that you can do something instead of doing nothing, but be gentle with yourself and do what you can, use what you have, and do what you can.
Yes,
I
I
fucked up
like
the
that.
quote the second time. I'll say it one more time. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Hey, you did what you could.
I did what I could. But I think it's really important to kind of just be gentle with yourself, especially with as the time change is going to happen too. So we're going to have a lot of roughness in November. So be gentle.
Yeah, and just as an end note, because I struggle with this, how do you be gentle with yourself? Teach me.
I mean, I personally just give myself permission to not be as productive. If that's like, for example, if I'm having like a really high emotion day or high anxiety day, or I'm just feeling the funk, I give myself permission to do something I enjoy. So maybe I'll take time to do a coloring book or something with a joint. But uh,
Yeah.
I kind of just try to be aware of my self talk in these times and be like, don't call yourself names in your head and don't expect 100%. Don't expect yourself to be going above and beyond. Lower your to do list for that day, that kind of thing. That's usually what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's well explained. I don't have any tips, which is why I asked you. So, uh, so anytime I hear like "be gentle with yourself," I just get like a whole body cringe. I'm like, ugh, like
I'm
I can't
sorry.
do it. No, it's just like I think it's like your definition is exactly not cringy, but when you think of like "be gentle," I just think of like being overly kind and just being like, oh, it's okay. I'm just like, I can't do it.
Oh no, that's just that's bullshit positivity, and I don't like that toxic positivity shit. But like, I just try to be. I try. I feel like I'm not great at treating myself like a friend normally in my head.
Yeah.
But on days that I'm having a really rough one, I'm like, would I say this stuff to Cody if he was having a bad day? No. Okay, then let's ease it up on myself, and like I'll sometimes like bring up someone's face in my head. Like, would I tell them that? Like, and not
That's
necessarily you, but like
yeah.
anybody out. Like, I don't know. It helps me. It's my trick.
Yeah, that works. I guess one thing I think my therapist did kind of teach me that has stuck with me is asking yourself what you need in that moment instead of like, being like this kind and gentle voice, just being like, what do you need right now? And then you can kind of answer the question from there. Like maybe it's like, I need a break, I need rest, I need whatever. And that's another way to kind of like not cringe, but still like meet your needs and whatever you need in the moment.
Yeah. And another good question I think is, what would it look like if this was easy? Um, if you're really struggling with like getting like something done. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's a good question. Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
don't forget to subscribe, leave us a
Yes.
comment, a like, let us know you're out there, so we're
Yeah.
not just feeling like we're talking into the void.
Yeah. Share around,
Yeah, share, share.
help a friend.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
Peace out.
Adios.